He bought my career to make me forget the man I loved. Then a courtroom revealed what he'd hidden for years. Have you ever wanted someone so badly that people told you, this is forbidden, and you still couldn't walk away? Can you imagine one person being able to shut your whole life off with a single signature? He was the kind of man London calls untouchable, an advisor who dined with ministers, bankrolled charity galas, and made doors open with one phone call. He didn't just influence my life. He wrote it for me. Where I worked, who I spoke to, where I went, what I was allowed to want. And I broke his one rule. I got close to the one person he said would ruin me. So he staged my public execution at a charity event, in front of cameras, colleagues, and all the people who used to smile at me like I mattered. He walked on stage and said my name like it was a verdict. In that moment, I lost my job, my network, and my right to speak. But he had no idea that would become his biggest mistake. Hi, I'm Lily Hart. I'm 29. I'm from Brighton. And I used to work as a speechwriter and media strategist, the person who puts polished words into the mouths of powerful people. If you're watching, follow, because what happens next still makes my hands shake. And comment where you're from and what time it is there right now. I read every single comment, especially from people who've had to choose themselves. Now, rewind 9 months. To the day I realized my freedom was a product someone thought they owned. It started in a townhouse library in Belgravia. Not a room, an altar to control. Dark wood, leather-bound books. A porcelain tea set with a crest on it, like even the tea had to remember who was in charge. Sir Julian Crawford sat behind a desk, the way a title sits on a man. Heavy, permanent, unquestioned. His cuffs were perfect. His voice was calm. The kind of calm that tells you he can ruin you without raising it. Lily, he said, tapping a folder without looking up. In 3 months, you'll move to our foundation, public-facing role. Your name on the website, your smile on the donor brochures. I've already drafted what you'll say. I swallowed. I don't want to be the face of anything. I want to do the work. I want the idea to matter. He smiled like I was adorable. Ideas don't pay for safety. The right people do. And if I choose something else? I asked, even though I already knew. He finally looked at me, cold, clinical, like an X-ray. Then you choose loneliness, and trust me, Lily, you won't like it. You can't run my life, I said, trying to sound steady. I can, he replied, because I invested in you. Your education, your introductions, your reputation, the doors you call hard work. I clenched my hands under the table. That doesn't give you ownership. He leaned forward, voice dropping lower. It gives me leverage. Then he said the sentence that summarized everything he believed. Slow, certain, almost gentle. Feelings are noise. Systems decide. I left that house pretending I still had dignity. But the truth was, I walked out carrying one awful understanding. He had a plan for my life, and my wants weren't in it. I met Noah in the kind of place Sir Julian would call unacceptable even as a waiting room. A tiny camera repair shop near King's Cross. I came to pick up my old film, Minolta, the only thing that had ever been mine without sponsorship, favors, or a logo attached to it. Behind the counter was a guy in a sweater with a loose thread on the sleeve, grease on his fingers. He looked up and said, "You're Lily?" "Yeah," I said. "You're Noah," he smiled. "I fix what people think is broken forever." We started talking, not about politics or donor lists or optics, about light, about framing, about why people look away in photos when they're hiking. 빠른 간추이생과오. And I realized something that hit me like warmth after years of cold. For the first time in a long time, someone was seeing me as a person, not a project. He handed me my camera and a small envelope. This isn't a bill, he said quietly. Just open it when you get home. I tucked it into my bag. I didn't think much of it. I also didn't think much of the thin ring I noticed on his wrist, engraved like it meant something, or the faded photo on the wall behind him, a courthouse, scribbled underneath in marker. Not guilty isn't the same as innocent. At the time I laughed, like it was just a joke, like it wasn't a warning. A week later, Sir Julian already knew about Noah, not guessed, not heard a rumor. Knew. His full name, address, background, a neat little file like Noah was a threat report. He summoned me to the foundation office. Glass, marble, security at every elevator like they were guarding souls. The folder was on the desk when I arrived. My stomach dropped. "You're seeing a mechanic," he said flatly. "He's not a mechanic," I snapped. He's a human being." Sir Julian leaned back, amused. "Lily, don't be naive. You're an investment. He's a risk." "Are you surveilling me?" My voice shook. "I manage consequences," he corrected. "Especially yours." He tilted the folder so I could see a printed photo. Noah outside his shop, me beside him. The angle was from a car. Someone had been watching. "That's disgusting," I whispered. "That's effective," he said, Shirai. "Here's your choice. End it today or tomorrow you stop existing in this circle." I expected fear to swallow me. Instead, something else rose up, hot, solid, adult, the kind of anger that finally refuses to beg. "Then I'll choose being real," I said, "even if it inconveniences you." That night, Noah came to my place, not with flowers, not with speeches. He brought a thermos of coffee and a plastic bag of hot noodles. Like reality mattered more than performance. "I saw the car," he said quietly. "You're not imagining it." "He wants me to give up," I said. "He wants me back inside his script." Noah stayed quiet for a moment, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "Then let's write our own." Inside was a simple ring. No diamond, no drama, just a circle, like a promise that didn't need an audience. "Lily," he said, "move in with me. And marry me. Not because we should, but because it's the one decision they can't notarize out of you." My eyes burned. I nodded. "Yes," I said yes. And that's when something strange happened. When he said they, he said it like he knew their language from the inside. Then his phone buzzed. He flipped it face down too fast, but I caught a glimpse. Not a name, initials, and a case number. "Who was that?" I asked. He smiled, too calm. "Work," he said, "right? Long story." After that, everything collapsed exactly the way Sir Julian wanted it to. My bank suddenly couldn't verify me. My agency restructured and cut my contract. People who used to call me daily stopped replying, like my phone number had become contagious. Even my closest friend, the one I'd cried with at 2 a.m. after brutal campaigns, sent one short text, "I can't be involved." I stared at myself in the mirror and thought something I'd never had to think before. If I don't have status, who am I? Noah held my hand. He didn't say, "It'll be fine." He said, "Eat, sleep, breathe. Surviving is resistance too." But there were moments that unsettled me. Sometimes he'd take calls in the hallway and speak like he was giving instructions. Sometimes he'd use legal terms too precisely for someone who fixed cameras. Once I saw a folder in his drawer, official-looking, stamped, and he slid it out of my reach so fast I didn't even get to ask. Then came the night Sir Julian made it public. A charity gala in the city. I was invited as the former face of the project. Officially, in reality, as a target. The room glittered, chandeliers, champagne, silk, that soft sound of expensive laughter, cameras, hosts, smiles that never reached eyes. Sir Julian walked onto the stage. I felt the attention tighten around me like a noose. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "tonight I have an announcement." He paused, letting the suspense breathe. "Our foundation will be terminating our association with Lily Hart." Whispers rippled through the room. Someone lifted their phone. Sir Julian looked directly at me. "The reason is simple," he said smoothly. "Some people confuse personal impulses with public responsibility." He smiled as if he was being generous. "We cannot trust someone who chooses questionable connections." I stood there while my world burned under crystal light. Faces turned away, eyes widened, screens recorded. And Sir Julian smiled like he just delivered entertainment. I stepped forward, not because I was brave, because if I stayed still, I would die inside. The microphone was cold. My hands shook, but my voice didn't. "I used to believe your value was measured by who invited you into rooms like this," I said. "I used to believe if you were inside the system, you were safe." I scanned the crowd. But tonight I learned something else. Safety without freedom is a cage, just an expensive one. Then I faced Sir Julian. "You can take my title, my contacts, my money," I said, "but you don't get to take my right to choose who I love and who I am." I inhaled. "And if you came here hoping to watch a tragedy, you misunderstood. I'm not your storyline. I'm the author." The silence that followed had weight, like everyone suddenly remembered they had a spine. "Did you expect that?" Comment shock if you didn't see it coming, or called it if you knew I wouldn't stay quiet. And follow, because what comes next is the twist that made Sir Julian's face actually crack. After the gala, the hardest weeks of my life began. I sent resumes into the void. I got polite rejections that all sounded the same, like one person had written them. I sold the clothes I used to buy for important meetings. Turns out fabric doesn't save you when you don't have a network. Noah worked longer hours, left earlier, came back later. Sometimes his phone rang at 2 a.m., and he'd step into the stairwell, shoulder blocking the door. I'd catch fragments through the crack. "Yeah, I understand. No, she doesn't know." Timelines? One night he came home with a split lip. "What happened?" I asked. "Nothing," he said quickly. "I bumped into something." I knew he was lying. I just didn't know why. Then a letter arrived. Heavy envelope, official seal, a summons, a hearing at the Royal Courts of Justice for alleged misuse of charitable funds. And at the bottom, the name, Crawford. The hearing took place in a courtroom that felt older than mercy. High ceilings, cold stone. The echo of footsteps, like the building itself, was whispering, "Here, the truth doesn't need makeup." Sir Julian entered in a perfect suit surrounded by attorneys. He spotted me and smirked, like I'd come to watch my own defeat. I sat beside Noah. He was unnervingly calm. The prosecutor spoke about shell contractors, suspicious transfers, donor money rerouted through consulting services. Sir Julian nodded like it was someone else's biography. Then the judge called the next witness for the prosecution. "Noah Reeves." My head snapped toward Noah. My throat tightened. "What?" I mouthed. Noah stood, and in that moment, I saw him differently, not as a guy behind a counter, as someone who knew exactly how to hold a room. He walked to the stand and handed the judge an ID. The courtroom went so quiet, I heard a camera click. "For the record," Noah said, voice even, "I am a financial investigator with the National Crime Agency." My entire body went cold and hot at the same time. Sir Julian's face changed, fast. For the first time, he looked like a man realizing his script was worthless. Noah opened a folder. The folder I'd once glimpsed in his drawer. "I have been operating undercover for 7 months," he continued, "in an investigation involving the laundering of charitable funds through a network of contractors." He laid out documents, transaction chains, recorded calls, signatures. Then he added the piece that made my stomach turn. "Additionally, attempts to intimidate witness Lily Hart, surveillance, threats, professional interference, have been documented." Sir Julian shot up. "This is outrageous," he barked, voice cracking into something ugly. "This is a setup." The judge struck the gavel. "Sir Julian Crawford, you will maintain order." And right then, I understood it. His power only worked where people were afraid. In here, fear had been replaced with evidence. After the hearing, he cornered us in the corridor, away from the cameras, where the marble smelled like dust and old paper. His hands trembled. He tried to reclaim his old tone, but it didn't fit anymore. "Lily," he said softly, like we were still in his library, "we can make a deal. You're smart. You know how the world works." Noah stepped forward, but I lifted my hand. I wanted this. "No," I said. "I'm done being a deal." His eyes flickered. "Your job, your contracts, I can bring it back. You'll be—" "I don't want back," I cut in. "I want first. I want a life that's actually mine." Noah looked at him calmly. "You built a system where people stay silent for comfort," he said. "Now, the system will answer you, by law." Sir Julian opened his mouth. Nothing came out, and I didn't feel triumph. I felt relief, because the power that lived inside my fear was finally gone. Months later, I didn't return to the old world, and honestly, I don't miss it. I work for an independent organization that protects whistleblowers and investigative journalists. No chandeliers, no crests on tea sets, but I sleep through the night. Noah and I didn't become some perfect fairy tale couple. We became real. We talk. We argue. We rebuild trust brick by brick, and we build a life no one can purchase with connections. Here are the 3 things I learned. Status is rented. Dignity is owned. Love won't fight your battles for you, but it reminds you why you should. A system is only as strong as the silence you agree to give it. Thanks for listening to the end. Like, follow, and turn on notifications if you want more stories like this. And tell me in the comments, would you risk everything for a choice everyone says you're not allowed to make?